students. Alright, I'm coming to you with quickness, going to get through part 7 of 2 Kings. Not going to delay so much, so let's go ahead and get started. Mama here. Excuse me. Okay, let us begin. Let's start out with a quote so we can begin to discuss the context. We think the washing machine is done, but I fear for the setting cycle where it's spinning and drying things, so just bear with me. I do apologize. It says here, this quote, also by Matthew Arnold, okay? Let victors, when they come, when the forts of folly fall, find thy body by the wall. When Byron's eyes were shut in death, we'd bow our head and held our breath. He taught us little, but our soul had felt him like the thunder's roll. Right, this is the memorial verses, 1.6 from, of course, Matthew Arnold. For me, this represents defeat, of course, defeat, but more importantly, a surrender to death. Okay, and we're exploring a lot of defeat, especially in the last section, this section, a lot of defeat, and in this section especially, we will talk about surrender, and what essentially all of Ahab's line has to end up doing is surrendering. They have no choice but to submit themselves to death. Okay, and this line here, find thy body by the wall. I left out a lot of the gory details in regards to Jezebel's death, but this was similar to how she had passed. She was slain, and it was noted that her blood was splattered on the wall. Okay. So again, this line too, we'll discuss, we'll bring it up just a second. He taught us little, but our soul had felt him like the thunder's roll. So just hold on to that line, he taught us little, just because there is a similarity. Without further ado, let's begin with chapter 10, chapter 10, okay, in 2 Kings. It says here, now there were in Samaria 70 sons of the house of Ahab. So again, we talked about the amount of sons that these kings had. So it almost seems like they have a never-ending supply of successors, right? Their reign could seemingly go on forever. So Jehu recognized this. Again, he is the one that is implementing essentially this crusade against Ahab's house. And he was one of the people that Prophet Elijah spoke about as somebody who would take down this house with the sword. So Jehu wrote letters and sent them to Samaria, the officials of Jezreel. When the letter arrived, these men took the princes and slaughtered all 70 of them. They put their heads in baskets and sent them to Jehu and Israel. Okay, and this was actually the result of the second letter Jehu wrote to the officials of Jezreel. He's basically commanding them to go ahead and surrender. He's like, you cannot stand a chance, so you can either join me and listen to me, or, I will slay all of you, in addition. So in order to save their own lives, these officials actually did sacrifice and did the dirty work, if you will, of Jehu, essentially. It was under his command that these princes, all 70 of them were slain. Hold on to that as well. But yes, unfortunate. I shouldn't say that, right? Unfortunate. Things happen, gruesome. Not things I like to talk about, obviously, but this is what is occurring. Okay. When Jehu came to Samaria, he killed all who were left there of Ahab's family. He destroyed them, according to the word of the Lord spoken to Elijah. Okay? Then Jehu brought all the people together and said to them, Ahab served Baal little. Jehu will serve him much. Okay, so this is a hint of sarcasm, if you will. And again, I told you to hang on to that line, right? Serving Baal little, right? He taught us little, but our soul had felt him like the thunder's roll. So Jehu is saying, Ahab served Baal little, and I will serve him much. So he incited everybody to go ahead and destroy the temple. and really just created an uproar, a riot, if you will, to go ahead and destroy the temples of Baal as a service, right? It says here, they demolished the sacred stone of Baal and tore down the temple of Baal, and people have used it for a latrine to this day. Okay? So Jehu destroyed Baal worship in Israel. However, he did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, which he had caused Israel to commit, the worship of the golden calves at Bethel and Dan. Okay, so we see Jehu as this great warrior, right? But he was not perfect, obviously, right? For him to be this zealous, to commit all this violence in such a short period of time, he had to, there has to be something going on with him, and this is what it is here. He wasn't totally repenting of the other worship. He kind of ignored it. He did not take it into account that this worship of the golden calves at Bethel and Dan was still going on. So he didn't do anything to solve that issue. And it says here he did not turn away. So, that could have been an issue with him. Anyways, he did destroy the Baal worship in Israel, as stated. In those days, the Lord began to reduce the size of Israel. Hazael overpowered the Israelites through their territory. So Elisha had been upset about this, been upset about Hazael overpowering the Israelites, although Hazael was also one of the people Elijah spoke about. It was both Jehu, Hazael, and then of course the prophet Elisha, who is going to wrap everything up. Hopefully we'll learn about that, and we'll talk about that later. But anyways, Hazael was also, again, he's the one that took over the house of Aram and Ben-Hadad, and that area. He is now overpowering the Israelites through their weaknesses that are, occurring through the community. Okay, it says here, Jehu rested with his ancestors and was buried in Samaria, and Jehoahaz, his son, succeeded him as king. The time that Jehu reigned in Israel was 28 years. Okay, so he did some damage in those 28 years. He definitely really overturned Israel on top of its head, and he finally rested with his ancestors. And don't worry, I'm adding him to the list on Israel's side and his son Jehoahaz to the Excel document on Israel's side. Now pay attention to this. It says here, when Athallia, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she proceeded to destroy the whole royal family. So she was a bit of a traitor, but she was the mother of Ahaziah and the wife of Jeroboam, if I'm not mistaken. I did put this in the chart as well, on Judah's side, actually. Excuse me, not Jeroboam, Jehoram. Athallia was the queen and the wife of Jehoram, and her son was Ahaziah. Okay, so she, after Ahaziah was dead, right? He died due to that incident. She proceeded to destroy the whole royal family. Okay, so I guess she's not really seen as a traitor in this moment. She's actually still going against Israel, maybe Judah too, honestly. But it says here, but Jehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram, and the sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, son of Ahaziah, and stole him away among the royal princes who were about to be murdered. Okay, this is my confusion, because remember, we had Judah's side and Israel's side all intermarrying on the side of Ahab. So they were kind of mixing together in a way. So that's why they're all still considered the line of Ahab, whether it be Israel's side, whether it be Judah's side. Okay, so interesting here. Ahaziah had the son Joash, not with his queen Athallia. It was, of course, with a concubine, second wife, what have you. There's the son Joash. He was the one who escaped the crusade against all of the princes from the royal line. He remained hidden with his nurse at the temple of the Lord for 6 years, while Athallia, why am I having such a hard time with that now? Athallia, ruled the land. Guards were commanded by Jehoiada the priest to guard the young king. Not even a king yet. I spoke too soon, but he's ordering the guards to go ahead and guard Joash 24/7, even on Sundays. It says here, and you who are in the other two companies that normally go off Sabbath duty are to all guard the temple for the king. So he's hidden away. He's a young child at this time. And they're taking a lot of measures to go ahead and push him into reign. So he actually takes the crown and crowns him, and everybody kind of has who's guarding him, and in the command, I guess, is honoring this young child as king. They blew trumpets, and Athallia actually learned about this and said and called all of those commanders traitors, because she was in her rightful rule at this time, and she was obeying the order to go ahead and abolish the royal line. So I don't think she was all bad. Nonetheless, she is put to death for, I guess, rebelling against their will to make this very, very young child king. Let's go ahead and continue. It says, Jehoiada, who's the priest, then made a covenant between the Lord and the king and the people that they would be the Lord's people. He also made a covenant between the king's people. All the people of the land went to the temple of Baal and tore it down. They smashed the altars and idols to pieces and killed Mattan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. Okay, it says, all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was calm because Athallia had been slain with the sword at the palace. So again, they're pushing this very young king into rule, and Israel, like I said, is turning on its head, and it's starting to revolutionize itself, right? We have some people starting to rebuild their covenant with the Lord, essentially, through this priest, Jehoiada. You know, they're rejecting Baal, they're repenting from the worship of Baal. And it says here, Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign. So officially, after Athallia was slain by the sword, Joash can take his rightful place. Is this God's will? I mean, the covenant was made between the Lord and the priest and the king and such, but we will learn what is to come of Joash. Again, 7 years old when he began to reign, so this was kind of like an interesting plan from very, very early on. Of course, they did have to hide him for 7 years, so I guess they had some time to work on that. Anyways, interesting, right? This is like one of the young kings. Again, I can't help but think of Game of Thrones or something of that nature, where we have Joffrey, King Joffrey, how he was young and ruled, that type of thing. Now we have Joash, and I will share with you the chart very soon. Maybe on this next one I'll add a few more people to the list, right, with this pace that we're going, and I'll show you the updated chart just so we're not confused. But I hope I explained that decently enough. Of course, when you see the visual, you will understand how the things work out. Okay, well, God bless you guys. Thanks for listening. I'm glad I got this done. The washing machine is quiet. Okay, have a good rest of your day, and talk to you very soon. Bye.